Am I on? I am on. Wow, hello again. So I wanted to start my talk off today with a question for all of you. How many of you stay in touch with your exes? Ex-boyfriends, ex-husbands? How many of you do that? Yeah? I see somebody's waving there. So yeah, you like to keep that connection going. Yeah. Well, I went through a time in my life where I would do that, and then I was really tired of going back and forth with this one relationship, and I made a rule for myself. I said, no more staying in touch with exes. Done. And so that was the rule that I lived by for quite a long time, and I was fine with that. You know, once the relationship is over, done, don't need to see you ever again in my life. That's what I lived. That was my rule. But about 10 or so years ago, one of my ex-boyfriends reached out to me, and I thought, you know what? I think I'm going to break the rule. I'm going to put the rule aside, and I'd love to hear what he has to say. I'd love to catch up with him. And so we were catching up with each other. He was telling me about his kids and his new grandkids, and I was telling him about my spiritual adventures, and it was really nice. And I was glad I broke the rule because he was, a good friend, and we had a good connection. And when we were in this back and forth with texts and stuff like that, he sent me a picture of his motorcycle, and I thought, uh-oh. That doesn't look like a good idea, but I always knew he wanted a motorcycle. So I was happy for him, and I thought, good for you. I know you love your bike, and that's great, right? Reverend William knows that feeling, I'm sure. But, I was really happy that he had finally found the love of his life, his motorcycle. So anyway, so we're continuing to stay in touch here and there. And then I got a phone call from his daughter. And she told me that he had been in a very, very serious bike accident. Somebody had sideswiped him, and he was in a coma. And so knowing me and who I am, I got the prayer team on it, and I started doing my heavy-duty prayer work because there was no way under my watch that this man was not going to recover. So time went by, and then I got another call from his dad. And his dad said, his name was Ernie, or is Ernie, and he said, it doesn't look like Ernie's going to make it. The doctors are saying that he's taking a turn for the worse. And so my heart was very sad about that. And this was around Christmas time, and a girlfriend of mine who was also a practitioner had come over to my house for Christmas Day. We were going to just have, breakfast and open presents and have a good time. And so we're sitting there having breakfast, and she looks at me and she goes, well, how's Ernie doing? And I used to call her Cricket. That was my nickname for her. And I go, Cricket, it's not looking good, and the doctors are pretty certain he's probably going to leave this planet. And I said, I was so certain, though. I said, Cricket, I was so certain that he was going to recover. I just knew it in my heart. But the doctors are saying that's not going to happen. And so my friend grabbed my arm and looked me straight in the eye, pulled me in. It was scary. She pulled me in and looked at me and said, wait 5 more minutes for the miracle. And I'm going, what? I go, I have to be real. I have to be real. The doctors are saying, not going to happen. He's in bad shape, and there's just no way. And she pulled me in again and said, I'm telling you, Dale, wait 5 more minutes for the miracle. And she was so serious. I mean, she was convincing me I needed to wait 5 more minutes. So I said, you know what? I'm going to lean into your faith, and I'm going to wait 5 more minutes. So about a week later, I got a call from his daughter, and she said to me, well, they're moving my dad to Johns Hopkins, because he was in some really low-tech kind of county hospital in Maryland. They said because of the severity of his case, they're going to move him somewhere else so he can get care, and we can see if he can recover. So he gets moved, which was a blessing, because they didn't have a lot of technology where he was. And then I got the call a couple days later that they found what the problem was, that he was bleeding, and they couldn't see it in the tests that were being done at this other hospital. So they did the surgery, and he started to recover, and they brought him out of his coma. And 2 years later, I was dancing with him at his daughter's wedding. Yeah. I was having a good hair day. Having a good hair day. So that's Ernie Weisskirger, and he was a good friend of mine, and I'm so glad that I got to witness a miracle. In Science of Mind, we really don't talk about miracles because it's taught that everything's cause and effect, and nothing's magical, and nothing comes out of nowhere. It all has a scientific practicality. But for me, I love the idea of miracles. And this situation with my friend taught me so much about the power of prayer, of collective prayer, the power that we have to change what's going on in the midst of the world, trauma and war and accidents and healings that aren't going in the right direction in our eyes. It taught me the power of being steadfast. It taught me the power of believing in spirit no matter what. And like my friend had said, wait 5 more minutes because my timeline might not be met, but there's a bigger timeline. So miracles, how many of you like the word miracles? Does that just delight you? I love the word. And I say poo-poo to those old CSL people who are telling me don't use that word miracle because you're contradicting the law of mind and da-da-da-da. I don't care, I love miracles. And that's why my talk is called Expect a Miracle. Expect a miracle. Because I know the power of consciousness. If I'm going to expect a miracle, by God, I'm going to see one. It may not be the way I'm directing traffic on how it should look like, what my idea of a miracle is, but when I open the space and allow a miracle to happen through divine right action and order, it goes beyond anything I could think of. And miracle, this is what miracle is defined as: that which causes wonder and astonishment, extraordinary in itself. How beautiful is that? And life to me is a miracle. And I know that there have been many thinkers. I believe Einstein said that if you don't see that every moment is a miracle in this life, then you're missing out on it. And I'm totally paraphrasing, and that's probably not what the quote is, but I know he said something about every moment being a miracle. And so I say embrace the miracle and expect the miracle that is always bubbling up to reach the surface. Laura Nicoletti and I, just for those of you who don't know, Laura Nicoletti is one of our practitioners, and she's studying to get her ministerial credential with me. And we were talking about a book that she's reading for one of her assignments by Christian Larson called Pathway of the Roses. And I asked Laura to tell me what she thought was important about what she's reading right now. And yesterday she was telling me, well, what I really liked was there's this undercurrent of spirit just working beneath the surface. We can't see it, but it is there. And this energy of spirit is good. It is love. It is peace. It is joy. It is all those good qualities of spirit. They are right there underneath the surface. And when we're doing our prayer work, when we're in that state of knowing and expectation, that energy of spirit rises to the surface. And when she was telling me about that, it reminded me of truth. I mean, this is the truth, but we forget. We forget because we're in so much stuff in this physical world. So I found this on Facebook, and it reminds me of something for all of us to remember at this time in our world events. God says, stay patient. My timing is perfect. I have something bigger planned for you, and trust me, you'll love it. You'll love it. And, you know, I'm here in the world with all of you, and I'm hearing a lot of people going to gloom and doom. I'm hearing people talk about Armageddon. I'm hearing people say, there is nothing good that's going to come here. I'm hearing a lot of people say, I don't have faith. I hear a lot of people saying, there is no way we can come out of this. This is the end of it all. And I have to just sit there and go, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I get where you're going. I used to be like that. I always tell people I am a recovering negative person. I am. I used to be the worst. I admit it. I admit it. I was half glass empty, right? I was, if there's something bad happening, the whole world is going to suffer consequences. I don't do that anymore because that thinking got me nowhere. And that thinking, honestly, it never proved itself out in this world. I have only seen spiraling upward. Yes, there are things that are happening in the world that are upsetting, but I don't allow that to take me down anymore. No more of that. And I am so glad because I am part of this collective here that knows better, that knows what's possible. And as this slide says, wait for it. Like my friend said, 5 more minutes. Wait for it. Trust me. You're gonna love it. So Barry did this wonderful song, Waiting for the World to Change. And I really like that song. But I also happen to know if we're going to wait for the world to change, we're going to be waiting a long time. Because if we're going to sit here and expect this whole thing to change for us to feel better about things, that's just not how what's going to happen. What's going to happen is we must change, and the world will follow. It's up to us to change. And, you know, I've been in a lot of places inside of myself where I've been so affected by the outside world. And I realize that even though people might call me what is that word, Pollyanna? William, yeah. Pollyanna, or I'm too optimistic. I don't feel that way. I don't claim that I'm too optimistic. I believe that I am standing in a place where I can see that so much more is possible than meets the eye. And that's where I leave my energy. That's what I stand in. Because we talk a lot about the interconnectivity of life. We've been speaking a lot about energy, that we are all energy. Everything is energy. And what I do impacts people. What you do impacts people, because we are all connected. So when I do something, it's having a ripple effect somewhere else. And we're all part of that. And so I ask you all to honor yourself and see the power that you play in what is unfolding in this world today, because we are at choice on how we're going to react to all of this. We can either plug into saying, oh my God, it's gloom and doom, oh my God, there's these terrible things happening, and staying in a state of absolute terror, or we can choose differently. I mean, I can acknowledge what's going on out in the outer world, but I don't have to become it. I don't have to become the angst. I don't have to become the, oh, everything's falling apart thing. I don't have to do that. I can stand in my spiritual knowing of what's possible. And when I do that, other people see me doing that, and they say, hey, I can do that too, you're right. And then other people, like a domino, it just keeps going and going. And when we do that, we're affecting change. The world is changing just by us being in a place of positivity and knowing of what's possible. That's how easy it is. You don't have to go doing anything but work on you and your reaction to all of this. That's it. And I know that sometimes that people will say, you may be saying, well, that's easy for you to say, I can't stop reacting. I can't stop reacting because this is awful, it's terrible, this shouldn't be taking place in the world. You're right, it shouldn't. I agree with you. But me standing in that energy is not helping the world to change. Because if all of our energy is affecting each other, if we're going to be feeling positive and optimistic, then that's what's going to start to turn, and that's what's going to start to rise up. I don't need to know how that's going to look. Like right now with what's going on, I mean, the elephant in the room, right, is Israel and Palestine, what's going on with the Palestinians, right? I understand what we're seeing. I totally get it. But what I'm also seeing, and I wanted to say this, and I'm not being political, I am for peace, that's it. And what I'm seeing now, which I'm loving, I am seeing intolerance for war. I love that. I love people saying on both sides, enough. Enough. Right? And I'm not going to, I watch news because I like to know what's going on. I just don't get tangled up in it. And I was watching something, I'm not going to even tell you which side of this equation this reaction was. But somebody said, people are killing us, we must kill back. And I thought, really? Must we? Must we kill back? And I thought, we need to put an end to eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. It's because you know what I know is going to happen is at the end of the day, the two sides are going to come together at a table and work it out. I know that. I just know that. So can we skip the part where we're killing each other and just go to the table? I don't know. Call me crazy. But I know that the more of us that are going to be in that place of let's have peace, what I know in my heart, I'm so strong on this, you guys, what I know in my heart is peace is going to prevail here. We're going to come back and it's going to be peaceful and it's going to be better. And going forward, there is going to be a movement of not solving our political problems with war and hate, because I see that coming. And I am excited to support that energetically. So I found all this cool stuff on, Dr. Joe must be rubbing off on me on Facebook. This one I found on Instagram. This is a cute little thing. This, my dear, is the greatest challenge to being alive. To witness the injustice of this world and not allow it to consume our light. Dr. Laura, when she heard my song, oh, you can clap, yay, that's a great thing, right? Dr. Laura, when all she heard was my two songs I was singing, that I had chosen because I chose the music today. And she goes, oh my God, you've got to see this Cryon, who's a channeler, who's on YouTube, and he just channels information. And so I said, okay, because she was really strong about it. And when she's strong about something, I take note and I take her suggestion. So I'm watching Cryon, and he's a lot of his information is for people who are empaths, who feel the stuff of the world. And he was talking about that we need to stop feeling the stuff of the world and becoming disabled. I mean, we can feel it, we can't help it, I get it, but we get disabled, and then we're useless to ourselves and to our world. We let it take our power away from us. And as this tells us, our light gets dimmed or goes very low because we're seeing everything is so dark, and so we're becoming the darkness. And that's just not spiritually sound to do, because we've got a light inside of ourselves that will burn no matter what's going on. And if all of us keep that light bright and just not get taken down by the things of this world, by the injustices. I mean, I recognize it. Yeah, there's a lot going on in this world. And you need to do what you need to do. If you need to give money, if you need to give energy, if you need to go volunteer, I say go for it. But what we also need to do is keep ourselves spiritually sound, to burn the light and to trust, just like my friend said, wait 5 more minutes for the miracle. Because when we do that, when we have that expectancy, it attracts the demonstration of that reality. And that's something for us to remember as a spiritual community. So I'm all about spiritual resilience. I think it's really important. And you all are here today because you feel some sort of spiritual thing going on inside of here. You might call it God, you might call it love, you might call it infinite intelligence, but there's something that's drawing you here today because you must sense that there's something more than this physical reality to who you are and to this whole world. And so when we can understand that there is a strength in our spirituality, a very big, gigantic, huge strength in our spirituality, and it does matter, and it does have power, and it does change the world. So as Cryon was saying, he said that we've got to trust in that spiritual resilience and know that when we stand in that place together as one, when we're recognizing we are one, when we recognize that, that spirituality grows and expands, and it does amazing things in our world. And we all have the ability to be spiritually resilient. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time to find it. I always suggest you come to service, you study, read something that's spiritually inspiring, watch things. If you have to watch news, watch something to balance that out. Watch an inspiring movie or something. We got to keep the balance because you know what? It's up to us to bring the energy up so that this world can continue and we can expand and we can find peace and harmony among everybody because we're all the same. We're all the same, and we've got to stop living in these fixed identities and carrying all of this baggage of hate and revenge because it is getting us absolutely nowhere. So Cryon taught this great word, compassion action. Compassion action. Because I know that this situation we're in right now, in any situation where there's a victim and somebody who's inflicting pain, whenever that happens, we start to have division. And we start to identify either with the people who are doing the harm or those who are being harmed because they flip-flop, right? On both sides of what's going on right now, both sides are calling the other ones terrorists. Both sides are calling each other the bad guy. You can't, if everybody's the bad guy, then what's going on here? So there's just a misidentification. There's a projection because as human beings, we love, that we love our stories where there's a good guy and a bad guy. But when it starts playing out on the world stage like this, it gets really dangerous, as we can see. And so when we can stop putting people in boxes and saying good guy, bad guy, and have compassion for everybody, to open our eyes. And I know sometimes it's hard because if you're standing in a place and saying they're bad, there's just no question about it, let's take a step back. Are they really? Are they really bad? Have you listened to their story? Have you heard why they feel the way they feel? And we can apply this to our own lives because we all have situations where we've been in a good guy or a bad guy. And the thing is not to keep ourselves there, to open up the heart and listen to the story. Because if somebody feels like they are harmed and they've been victimized, then we need to hear them so we can see if there's a conversation to have, to see if there's something that we can do, to be compassionate. Because even with what we're seeing right now, I believe in love. And I believe that everybody deserves to be heard out. Everybody. Because you know what happens when we hear each other out? We're letting go. We're letting go of the story because we're being listened to. It's very powerful to listen to people. It's very powerful to witness someone's story. It's very powerful when we say, to not say, oh, you're wrong, or I see it differently. Just to listen brings forth great, great healing. And I believe that compassion action is something that we can all bring to the world, to bring to the table, and start seeing things a little bit differently, to soften up the edges of what's going on so that we can open the door to this stream of love, this stream of healing, this stream of miraculous energy that wants to come through so that we can live in peace and harmony. So we disable the darkness by being in the light. That's how we disable darkness. That's how we do it. You know, we see what we're seeing here. If I am going to disable the darkness, then I can no longer be it. Because even though we're not in this war right now with what's going on, a lot of us have become it. A lot of us are living it. A lot of us are acting from it. A lot of us are getting really scared, and that's not what we're here to do. You know, we all, I want to just say this, we're all spiritual warriors. We all have this capacity to stand up and use our spiritual knowing of who we are. We all have this capacity to tune into it and let it lift us up and out of this energy of dark. It's in us to be light. Doesn't it feel better to live in light? How does that feel? Light, how does that feel? Or dark? Light feels so much better. And I get it. You know, I used to be really hypervigilant in my life. I used to think that there was danger around every corner. That's just what I was brought up to think. I was thought that people were out to get me because of my Jewish heritage. And I was thought that this is a very unsafe world. That's what I carried around. So I carried around a big darkness with me, and I did not trust anybody, and I felt unsafe wherever I went because somebody might want to kill me because I'm Jewish. That's what I thought. And then I come into this teaching, all of that fell away because I realized who I was, and I realized that this isn't a dangerous world when I see and know of my spiritual power. I see that my consciousness creates my reality. And so if I'm standing in love and knowing that this is a safe place, that's what I experience. And we do this collectively for the whole world. We're transforming things. And I do believe with Cryon, as he says, that we are undergoing a huge, huge shift in collective consciousness in our world. I do believe that we are done with war and anger and violence and being at odds with each other. I believe that. And what he says is that when you start shining this light, the dark stuff starts to really rise up. It's like when I know this might sound disgusting, but you're in a dark room and there's a lot of cockroaches. When you hit that light, they all scurry and they show up. It's kind of like what we're seeing now. And I trust that. I absolutely trust that. So our job is to bring in the light. Our job is to hold it up. Our job is to know that just because something's happening out here doesn't mean that it indicates that the end is near. I just do not believe that. I believe love is here, and I believe that's what people want to live into. So Ernest Holmes says this, "It is only as I let go of the lesser that I can take hold of the greater. Only as I drop confusion that I can entertain peace. Only as I transcend, oh my gosh, I can't even read it. Doubt. Oh, I tried to make it the right color. What can I say? As I transcend doubt and fear, I can be lifted to the hilltops of the inner life. Because you know what this really is about, the inner life at the end of the day. It's about living in that place where you are so strong and you are so in faith and you are so knowing what's possible. And this is what Ernest is telling us. We have got to let go of the lesser. We have got to let go of the doubt. We've got to let go of the confusion because, you know, we're the only ones holding on to it. If you're feeling confused and doubtful and fearful, it's not that it's out there, It's that it's in here. And that's where our work lies. And I know it's not that easy. You can't just snap your finger and say, all right, I let go of all the doubt. I'm good. I know it's not easy because we keep having this relationship with that outer world. But that relationship is our healing. That relationship is telling us, if I'm getting caught up in that, then I've got something inside of myself that needs to be galvanized. I've got something inside of myself that tells me that I need to get my wholeness intact. I need to stand in my spiritual integrity and in that place of resilience, because you guys, you all have it. We all have that. And it's time for us to tap into it and bring it to life so that we can live in a place of calm and peace and serenity no matter what. Because our consciousness matters. That's how important all of us are. Your consciousness added to everybody else's in this light field is going to bring forward the miracle that we're all waiting for. And so as I bring my talk to a close, and I'm talking about expecting a miracle, I know that some of you may have said, you know what, I've done expecting a miracle for a long time, and it never happens. I get it. Been there, done that. But I ask you to give it 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes for that miracle. Because you know what? Spirit is right there working beneath the surface. Spirit hears your prayers. Spirit is opening up the field. Spirit is just asking you to let it do what it does so well, which is demonstrate in the most profound, amazing, mind-blowing way. Give it a chance. Give it 5 more minutes. Expect a miracle, and it will come. Thank you for listening to me.